She stood on that stage like she'd crafted every detail herself. I sat there, a slight smile playing on my lips. Because I knew that in just a few minutes, the entire room would realize she had no idea what she was doing. The PowerPoint slides glowed behind her. My months of work rebranded with her name. But the final slide, the one that made everything work, wasn't there, and she didn't even know it was missing. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I've spent the last 6 years building algorithms that most people can't even pronounce. At 34, I'm what they call a data strategy specialist at Ardentist Solutions, though that title barely scratches the surface of what I actually do. While others chase corner offices and executive lunches, I find my satisfaction in elegant code and solutions that actually work. Charlotte's tech scene knows my work, even if they don't always know my name. The woman on stage? That's Amanda Greer. 2 years older than me, infinitely better at workplace politics, and currently presenting my life's work to 300 of our industry's most influential leaders. She joined our team 18 months ago as a project manager, all bright smiles and firm handshakes, promising to elevate our technical brilliance to executive visibility. I should have seen it coming when she started scheduling those coffee meetings. "Just picking your brain," she'd say, leaning forward with practiced interest as I explained the intricacies of our latest project, an AI-driven logistics optimization system for one of the nation's largest distribution networks. It wasn't just any project. This was the kind of innovation that could revolutionize how supply chains operated, cutting costs by 40% while improving delivery times. For 9 months, I'd lived and breathed this system. Late nights debugging code, early mornings running simulations, weekends lost to perfecting the algorithm that would predict and prevent bottlenecks before they happened. Amanda was there for the meetings, took notes during my presentations, asked questions that seemed thoughtful at the time. I even appreciated having someone who seemed to understand the magnitude of what we were building. Then came that Tuesday morning, 3 weeks ago. I walked into the executive boardroom for our quarterly review, portfolio tucked under my arm, ready to present our progress. But Amanda was already there, my slides glowing on the screen behind her, my name conspicuously absent from every page. "I'm thrilled to share the breakthrough our team has achieved," she announced, her voice carrying that perfect blend of authority and warmth that executives eat up. She said, "our team," but her body language, her positioning, everything screamed, "my achievement." The board members nodded appreciatively as she walked through my methodology, my insights, my innovations. She'd even memorized my speaking points, delivering them with a confidence that made my stomach turn. When the applause came, when they offered her the chance to present at the national conference, when whispers of a regional VP position started circulating, I sat frozen in my chair, watching my career-defining moment become hers. That night, I stared at my laptop screen, at the real presentation, the complete one. Because what Amanda didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that I'd never put everything in those shared files. The final piece, the learning algorithm that made the whole system truly revolutionary, remained safely locked in my personal drive. Call it paranoia or call it foresight. But I'd learned long ago that in the corporate world, trust should always come with a backup plan. The betrayal hit differently in the days that followed. Every morning, I'd watch Amanda stride through the office with newfound importance, fielding congratulations and scheduling meetings with executives who'd previously walked past her desk without a glance. She transformed overnight from middle management to rising star. And she wore my work like a perfectly tailored suit. "Lauren, you have to do something." Jenna Lopez cornered me by the coffee machine on Thursday morning, my closest friend at Ardentist. Jenna had witnessed the whole presentation disaster from her seat in the back row. "Everyone knows that was your project. Hell, I've seen you sleeping at your desk working on it." I stirred my coffee slowly, watching the cream spiral into the darkness. "What exactly should I do, Jenna? March into HR and accuse a manager of stealing my PowerPoint? You know how that looks." "Like the truth?" She crossed her arms, her expression fierce. "Lauren, if you don't speak up now, this becomes the narrative. Amanda Greer, innovation leader. And you? You become invisible, Permanently. She wasn't wrong. I'd already seen the shift happening. In yesterday's team meeting, when I'd suggested a refinement to the deployment timeline, Amanda had smiled patronizingly and said, "That's an interesting thought. Lauren, let's table it for now while we focus on the big picture." The big picture I'd painted, pixel by pixel, over countless hours. The email that afternoon felt like salt in an open wound. Amanda had sent a company-wide announcement about her selection to present at the National Tech Innovation Summit in 2 weeks. She thanked all the little people who'd contributed to the project's success. Little people. I read that line 3 times, each reading making my jaw clench tighter. Congratulations on the summit selection. Her voice behind me was syrup sweet as I sat at my desk that evening. Amanda stood in my cubicle entrance, designer bag on her shoulder, looking every inch the executive she was pretending to be. "I wanted to thank you personally for your supporting role in all this." Supporting role. The words hung between us like a challenge. I turned slowly in my chair, meeting her eyes for the first time since the boardroom betrayal. "Of course, Amanda, I'm always happy to support the team." Something flickered in her expression. Surprise, maybe, that I wasn't fighting back. "Good. That's good. Actually, I might need your help preparing for the summit. You know, making sure I understand all the technical details." She said, technical details the way someone might say mundane paperwork. "I'd be happy to help," I heard myself say, my voice surprisingly steady. "When would you like to meet?" "Tomorrow, after lunch? I want to make sure I can answer any deep dive questions." She shifted her weight, and for a moment, I saw it, the flicker of uncertainty. She knew she was in over her head. She just didn't know how far. That night, I sat in my home office, staring at the complete presentation. 137 slides of pure innovation. But it was slide 138 that mattered most. The neural network architecture that enabled real-time learning and adaptation. The secret sauce that transformed a good logistics system into a revolutionary one. Without it, the entire model was just sophisticated guesswork. I opened my personal project folder and reviewed the documentation I'd kept meticulously updated. Every email where Amanda had asked for clarification, every meeting where I'd explained concepts while she nodded and took notes. Every timestamp showing when files were created, modified, and by whom. If it came to it, I had proof. But Jenna was right about one thing. Defensive moves rarely won corporate games. My phone buzzed. A text from my mentor at my previous company. "Saw the announcement about Amanda's presentation. Isn't that your project?" Even people outside our dentist knew. The tech community in Charlotte wasn't that big. Word traveled, reputations formed. And right now, mine was being stolen in real time. I closed my laptop and made a decision. I wouldn't fight Amanda for credit that was rightfully mine. I wouldn't wage a war in HR or plea my case to executives who'd already crowned their new favorite. No. I'd do something far more effective. I'd let her have the spotlight she craved so desperately. All of it. Every glaring, unforgiving beam of it. And when she stood on that national stage, presenting work she didn't understand to people who did, I'd be there in the audience, watching her discover exactly what happens when you steal something you can't operate. The setup would be perfect. After all, she'd asked for my help. Sleep became a stranger after that night. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction with Amanda over the past 18 months. How had I been so blind? The signs were there. Her convenient absences during the hard development phases. Her sudden interest when results started showing. The way she'd position herself in meetings to appear central to discussions she barely understood. At 3 a.m., I found myself at my kitchen table, laptop open, scrolling through our shared project folders. There it was, in black and white, the access logs showing Amanda had downloaded my presentation files at 11:47 p.m., 3 days before the board meeting. She'd planned it. This wasn't some impulsive grab for glory, it was calculated theft. The anger that flooded through me was different from the initial shock of betrayal. This was cold, clarifying fury. I'd spent my entire career believing that good work spoke for itself, that competence would always win over charisma. Amanda had just taught me how naive that belief was. "You look like hell," Jenna said the next morning, sliding a large coffee across my desk. "Please tell me you're planning something." "I'm helping Amanda prepare for the summit," I replied, voice neutral. Jenna's eyes widened. "You're what?" She asked for my help with the technical details. I took a sip of coffee, letting the bitterness ground me. "I'm going to make sure she's fully prepared." "Lauren." Jenna's voice carried a warning. "What aren't you telling me?" I pulled up the project files on my screen, angling it so she could see. "Do you notice anything missing?" She studied the slide deck, frowning. Then her expression shifted. "The learning algorithm. The whole autonomous decision-making component. It's not there." "Never was," I confirmed. "I've always kept that separate. Call it insurance." "Insurance or intuition?" "Both." I minimized the window as footsteps approached. "The algorithm is what makes the system revolutionary. Without it, the model can process historical data and make basic predictions, but it can't adapt in real time. It can't learn from emerging patterns. It's essentially worthless for live implementation," Jenna finished, a slow smile spreading across her face. "And Amanda has no idea. She's about to present a half-built rocket ship to NASA," I said quietly. "And she doesn't even know it's missing the engine." That afternoon's meeting with Amanda was a masterclass in self-control. She sat across from me in conference room B, designer notebook open, playing the part of the eager student. If I hadn't known better, I might have bought the performance. "So, walk me through the optimization sequence again," she said, pen poised. "I want to make sure I can explain it clearly." I obliged, detailing the surface-level processes with perfect accuracy. I explained the data collection, the initial analysis patterns, the basic prediction models. All true. All incomplete. Like teaching someone to drive by, only explaining how to turn the key. "This is incredibly helpful," Amanda gushed, scribbling notes. "You really have a gift for explaining complex concepts." "Thank you," I managed, swallowing the bile rising in my throat. "Is there anything specific you're concerned about for the Q&A?" She waved dismissively. "Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. These executive types never dig too deep into the technical weeds. They just want to know ROI and implementation timelines." That's where she was wrong. The National Tech Innovation Summit wasn't a boardroom of MBAs. It was CTOs, heads of engineering, people who'd built systems from scratch. They'd dig, they'd probe, they'd ask the questions that mattered. "Still," I said carefully, "you might want to review the system architecture. Sometimes they ask about scalability." "Right, of course." She made another note. "The system scales linearly with data input, correct?" I kept my expression neutral. That's one way to put it. She didn't catch the evasion. Why would she? In her mind, she'd already won. The presentation was just a victory lap. As the meeting wrapped up, she stood and smoothed her skirt. "I really appreciate this, Lauren. I know it must be difficult, watching someone else present your work." There it was. The admission, wrapped in false sympathy. She knew exactly what she'd done. "We all play our parts," I replied, meeting her eyes steadily. "I'm just making sure you play yours perfectly." Something in my tone must have registered because she paused at the door, looking back with the first hint of uncertainty I'd seen. But then her confidence reasserted itself, and she was gone, leaving me alone with my laptop and the weight of what was coming. I opened the hidden partition on my drive and looked at slide 138, the algorithm that would never make it to the summit, the missing piece that would turn Amanda's stolen triumph into a very public disaster. For the first time in days, I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't taking back what's yours. It's letting someone else discover they never really had it at all. The next 2 weeks passed in a carefully orchestrated dance. I became Amanda's most dedicated supporter, at least on the surface. When colleagues whispered about the stolen credit, I'd shrug and say, "We're all on the same team." When Jenna pressed me about my plan, I'd simply smile and change the subject. Even when my old mentor called again, I brushed off his concerns with practiced ease. "Lauren, I need your help with the demo environment," Amanda announced one morning, looking slightly frazzled. The summit was 5 days away, and cracks were starting to show in her polished facade. "It says there might be compatibility issues with the conference center's systems." "Of course," I replied, already knowing what the issue was. The demo environment I'd built required specific parameters to run properly, parameters I documented in a file she'd never bothered to steal. "What seems to be the problem?" "It keeps throwing error messages during the simulation runs." She thrust her laptop at me, showing a screen full of red text. "Can you fix it?" I studied the errors with theatrical concentration, then nodded slowly. "I see the issue. The simulation needs to connect to our learning module to run properly. Don't worry. I'll configure a standalone version for you." Relief washed over her face. "You're a lifesaver, Lauren." I spent the afternoon building her a perfect demo, beautiful, smooth, impressive to watch. It showed historical data being processed, patterns being identified, predictions being made. It looked revolutionary. It just wasn't. Without the learning algorithm, it was a sophisticated slideshow, not a functioning AI system. "This is perfect," Amanda exclaimed during our final prep session. She clicked through the demo with growing confidence. "The visualization really sells the concept." "I've also prepared some backup slides," I offered, handing her a USB drive. "Just in case you need to go deeper into any technical aspects." She barely glanced at them before tossing the drive into her bag. "I'm sure I won't need them, but thanks." The night before she left for the summit, the office threw an impromptu send-off. Champagne in plastic cups, awkward speeches about innovation and leadership. I stood in the back, raising my glass with everyone else, playing my part perfectly. "Knock 'em dead tomorrow," I told Amanda as the gathering dispersed. "Oh, I intend to," she replied, that familiar smugness creeping into her voice. "This is going to change everything for my career." She had no idea how right she was. I turned down Jenna's invitation for drinks, claiming I had a migraine. Instead, I went home and pulled up the summit's agenda. Amanda's presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m., right after lunch. Prime time. The session would be live-streamed for virtual attendees and recorded for the conference archives. Perfect. That night, I finally slept well. Not the sleep of the innocent, but the sleep of someone who'd set events in motion that couldn't be stopped. Amanda had wanted the spotlight. She'd schemed and stolen to get it. Tomorrow, she'd discover that sometimes the spotlight burns. The next morning, I arrived at the office early and set up the live stream on the main conference room monitor. Several colleagues had already gathered, eager to watch our company's moment of triumph. "Shouldn't you be there?" asked Tom from engineering, settling into a chair with his coffee. "I mean, this was basically your baby." "Amanda's got it handled," I replied smoothly. "Besides, someone needs to hold down the fort here." By 1:45, the conference room was packed. Even some of the C-suite had joined, including our CTOs, David Park, who'd been one of the original champions of the project. I stood near the back, my expression carefully neutral as the live stream began. The conference hall looked impressive on screen. Hundreds of attendees, major tech company logos everywhere, the stage set like a TED Talk. Amanda emerged from the wings, and I had to admit she looked the part. Power suit, confident stride, wireless mic attached with practiced ease. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice clear and strong. "I'm thrilled to be here representing our dentist solutions with a breakthrough that's going to revolutionize supply chain management." The first 20 minutes went flawlessly. She hit every talking point, navigated the slides with precision, even got some appreciative murmurs from the audience when she showed the cost reduction projections. I watched my colleagues lean forward, proud of their company's moment in the sun. Then came the demo. "Now, let me show you the system in action," Amanda announced, clicking to the simulation. The visualization launched perfectly. data points flowing across the screen in an elegant dance. As you can see, our AI processes incoming logistics data in real time. That's when the first hand went up in the audience. The camera zoomed in on the questioner, Dr. Sarah Kim, head of AI development at a major tech firm. I knew her by reputation. She didn't suffer fools. Excuse me. Dr. Kim's voice cut through Amanda's presentation. Can you show us how the system adapts to unexpected supply chain disruptions? For instance, if a major distribution center suddenly goes offline? I watched Amanda's smile freeze for just a moment before recovering. Of course. The system accounts for disruptions through predictive modeling. No. Dr. Kim interrupted. I mean, show us. Run the scenario. The conference room in Charlotte had gone completely silent. Everyone sensed something shifting. On screen. Amanda's hands hesitated over her laptop keyboard. The silence stretched like a taut wire as Amanda's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Even through the live stream, I could see the slight tremor in her hands. She clicked a few buttons, trying to modify the simulation parameters. But the demo continued its pre-programmed dance, oblivious to her attempts at real-time changes. There seems to be a technical issue with the live modification feature, Amanda said, her voice pitched slightly higher than before. But I can walk you through how it would work conceptually. That won't be necessary. Another voice interrupted. This time it was Marcus Williams, CTO of a Fortune 500 logistics company. Could you instead explain the learning algorithm architecture? How does the system actually adapt and improve its predictions over time? The conference room in Charlotte was tomb silent now. David Park, our CTO, leaned forward in his chair, frowning. On screen. Amanda shuffled through her slides, clearly searching for something that wasn't there. The learning component utilizes advanced neural networks. She began, falling back on buzzwords. Which type? Dr. Kim pressed. Convolutional, recurrent, transformer-based? What's your approach to preventing model drift? Amanda's carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time. She clicked to another slide, one of the backup slides I'd prepared for her. But it was just a high-level diagram. Pretty but meaningless without the underlying architecture. We use a proprietary hybrid approach, Amanda attempted, but her voice lacked conviction. Proprietary is fine, Marcus Williams said. But surely you can discuss the basic principles. How does your system differ from existing solutions? What makes it revolutionary, as you claimed? I watched Amanda's eyes dart across the audience, perhaps looking for a friendly face, a lifeline. Finding none. She tried to redirect. The revolutionary aspect is in the results. As you saw in the cost projections, anyone can project numbers. A third voice chimed in. We're here to see innovation, not Excel spreadsheets. Can you show us the actual algorithm? Even pseudocode would be helpful. The murmurs in the summit audience were growing louder. In our conference room, someone whispered, What's going on? Why can't she answer? Amanda was drowning, and everyone could see it. She clicked through more slides, each one surface level, each one useless for answering the increasingly technical questions being fired at her. Perhaps, Dr. Kim suggested with cutting politeness. You could walk us through a single prediction cycle, show us how data flows through your system, how decisions are made, how the learning component updates the model. Yes, of course. Amanda returned to the demo, but it was like watching someone try to explain how a car works by pointing at the paint job. She could describe what it looked like, but not what made it run. The next 15 minutes were excruciating. Question after question exposed the hollowness of her understanding. She deflected, she generalized, she promised to follow up with detailed documentation. But the damage was done. The audience had come expecting innovation and found only smoke and mirrors. I think we've seen enough, Marcus Williams finally said, his tone dismissive. Thank you for your presentation. The live stream showed Amanda standing alone on stage. Her confident veneer shattered. She managed a weak, "Thank you for your time," before gathering her materials with shaking hands. The camera caught her exit, No longer a confident stride, but a barely controlled retreat. Our conference room erupted the moment the stream ended. "What the hell was that?" David Park's voice cut through the chaos. She couldn't answer a single technical question. It was like she'd never seen the actual system architecture. "Maybe she was just nervous," someone offered weakly. "Nervous?" David turned to face the room, his expression thunderous. "She just embarrassed our entire company in front of every major player in the industry. That wasn't nerves, that was complete ignorance." His eyes found me in the back of the room. "Lauren, you worked closely on this project. Can you explain what just happened?" I met his gaze steadily. "I can only speak to the technical components I developed. As for the presentation," I let the sentence hang, unfinished but heavy with implication. Jenna caught my eye from across the room, the ghost of a smile on her face. She understood. They all would, soon enough. My phone buzzed, a text from my mentor. That was painful to watch. The real architect would never have fumbled those questions. Another from a former colleague at a competing firm. "Was that really your project?" Because whoever presented it had no idea what they were talking about. And another. "LinkedIn is already lighting up. People are asking who really built Ardentis's revolutionary system." The summit disaster was spreading through the tech community like wildfire. By the time Amanda landed back in Charlotte, her reputation would be in ashes. The spotlight she'd craved had become a burning lens, and she'd volunteered to stand beneath it. I slipped out of the conference room as debates raged about damage control. In the quiet of my cubicle, I pulled up the complete project documentation, every algorithm, every innovation, every breakthrough that Amanda had tried to claim. Tomorrow, there would be meetings, questions, a reckoning. Tonight, I simply saved my files and shut down my computer. A strange peace settling over me. Justice didn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it came from simply letting someone reveal exactly who they were when the world was watching. The call came at 7 a.m. the next morning. David Park's assistant, her voice carefully professional. "Mr. Park would like to see you in conference room A at 8. Please bring all project documentation for the logistics AI system." I arrived 15 minutes early, my laptop bag heavy with truth. The room was already occupied. David Park, our CEO Margaret Torres, and the head of HR. Their faces were grave, the atmosphere thick with unspoken accusations. "Sit, please," Margaret said, gesturing to a chair. "We need to understand what happened yesterday." I placed my laptop on the table, but didn't open it yet. "What would you like to know?" David leaned forward. "Let's start with the obvious. Amanda couldn't answer basic technical questions about a project she claimed to lead. Meanwhile, I've received over 30 messages from industry contacts, all suggesting that someone else was the real architect. Your name keeps coming up." "I see," I said simply. "That's all?" Margaret's voice sharpened. "Lauren, we've just suffered a massive public humiliation. Our stock price dropped 3 points in after-hours trading. We need answers." I opened my laptop then, pulling up the project folders. "Would you like to see the development history? Every commit, every design document, every algorithm iteration, all time-stamped, all with clear attribution?" For the next hour, I walked them through 18 months of work, the original conceptualization emails, the late-night breakthrough documented in my development notes, the algorithm architecture that Amanda couldn't explain because she'd never seen it, the crucial component I'd kept secure. "This learning module," David interrupted, studying the code on screen. "This is what makes the system actually work?" "Yes. Without it, you have sophisticated pattern matching but no real intelligence, no ability to adapt, evolve, or truly optimize." I pulled up another screen. "This is what Amanda presented yesterday. Impressive visualizations running on historical data, but incapable of real-time learning." "You knew," Margaret said slowly. "You knew she'd stolen your work, and you knew she'd fail." "I knew she'd taken my presentation." "Yes. As for the rest," I shrugged. "I simply gave her exactly what she asked for, help preparing for the summit." She never asked about the learning algorithm because she didn't know it existed. David ran a hand through his hair. Why didn't you come to us when she first stole the presentation? With what proof? A manager presenting teamwork is hardly unusual. It only became theft when she claimed sole credit and accepted opportunities based on that lie. I met each of their eyes in turn. I believed the truth would reveal itself. It did. The door burst open. Amanda stood there, still in yesterday's power suit, looking haggard. You set me up, she snarled at me, ignoring the executives. You deliberately sabotaged. That's enough. Margaret's voice cut like ice. Amanda, sit down. She gave me an incomplete system. Amanda's voice rose. She wanted me to fail. I gave you exactly what you stole, I replied calmly. No more, no less. The only sabotage was your decision to present work you didn't understand to people who did. David pulled up the live stream on his tablet, fast-forwarding to the Q&A disaster. Can you explain this algorithm architecture, Amanda, since you claim it's your work? Amanda's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. The fight drained from her as she sank into a chair. I've scheduled an emergency board meeting for noon, Margaret announced. We need to control this narrative immediately. Lauren, can you present the complete system to the board? The real system? I nodded. Of course. There's a tech conference in Chicago next month. David added. Smaller, but influential. We could demonstrate the actual functioning system there, with the right person presenting. His meaning was clear. Amanda found her voice. You can't just... I've been with this company for... You've been here 18 months, Margaret interrupted. And in that time, you've destroyed our reputation and potentially cost us millions in contracts. HR will discuss your options, which I assure you are limited. As security escorted Amanda out, her designer heels clicking a staccato retreat, David turned back to me. Why protect the learning algorithm separately? It seems like you anticipated this. I closed my laptop, considering my words. I've been in tech for 12 years. I've learned that innovation is currency, and not everyone respects the mint. I protected my work because I've seen too many builders become footnotes in their own success stories. Margaret stood, smoothing her jacket. The board will want to discuss your future with the company as well. Lauren, I trust you'll be equally prepared for that conversation. Always, I replied. That afternoon, I stood before the board and presented my complete system, every algorithm, every innovation, every beautiful line of code that Amanda had tried to steal. The questions came fast and technical, and I answered them all with the confidence of someone who'd built every piece from scratch. By evening, Amanda's desk had been cleared. By the next morning, a press release announced a restructuring of project leadership to better align with technical expertise. By week's end, I had a new title, a substantial raise, and a formal apology from the company. But the real vindication came in a message from Dr. Sarah Kim. I knew something was off. No one who built that system would have fumbled those questions. Looking forward to seeing the real presentation in Chicago. This time, from the actual architect? I smiled, saving the message. Amanda had wanted the spotlight, and she'd gotten it. Every harsh, revealing beam of it. She'd learned too late that stealing someone's work was like stealing a car you couldn't drive. Eventually, inevitably, you'd have to get behind the wheel and show everyone you had no idea what you were doing. The Chicago conference was everything the summit disaster hadn't been. I stood on stage, calm and prepared, watching the demo respond in real time to every scenario the audience threw at it. Supply chain disruption, the AI adapted instantly. Unexpected demand spike. The algorithm evolved its approach before their eyes. Each question was an opportunity to showcase not just what I'd built, but why it mattered. The learning component is what transforms data from history into wisdom, I explained, pulling up the architecture Amanda had never seen. It doesn't just recognize patterns, it understands why they exist and predicts how they'll change. The applause was genuine this time, earned through innovation rather than stolen through deception. Marcus Williams approached afterward. business card in hand. We'd like to discuss implementation, with the real architect this time. 6 months later, our dentist had contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. The logistics AI system was being hailed as a breakthrough in supply chain management. My name was on the patents, the papers, and most importantly, in the minds of people who mattered. Amanda's name had become something else entirely, a cautionary tale whispered at tech conferences and in HR departments. She'd left Charlotte altogether, her LinkedIn profile showing a vague consulting role in another state. The internet, as they say, never forgets. Search her name. And the summit disaster was the first result, forever archived in conference history. You know what the ironic part is? Jenna mused over celebratory drinks after our latest contract signing. She could have had a perfectly respectable career just being a good project manager, but she wanted to be something she wasn't. I swirled my whiskey, thinking about those sleepless nights when betrayal had burned like acid in my chest. She taught me something valuable, though. Good work might speak for itself, but sometimes you need to make sure it's speaking in your voice. The email that arrived the next week shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Amanda's personal Gmail, subject line, I need to talk to you. Lauren, I know I have no right to contact you. What I did was wrong. I see that now. I've lost everything, my reputation, my career, my credibility. But I wanted you to know that I understand why you did what you did. You didn't destroy me. You just let me destroy myself. I was so focused on climbing the ladder that I forgot you actually need to be able to do the job when you reach the top. I'm sorry for trying to steal your work. I'm sorrier for not respecting it enough to understand it. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. Amanda, I read it twice, then archived it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, weren't meant to be rebuilt. But there was something satisfying about her acknowledgement, even if it came too late to matter. A year after the summit disaster, I was invited to give a keynote at the same conference where Amanda had crashed and burned. Full circle. With one crucial difference, this time, I'd be presenting my own work, with my name in lights where it belonged. The night before, I stood in my hotel room, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed with messages of support from colleagues, mentors, and even strangers who'd followed the story. David Park had sent a simple text. Show them what real innovation looks like. The next day, I took that same stage where Amanda had fallen apart. The auditorium was packed, the live stream running, the tech world watching, but I wasn't nervous. How could I be? Every line of code was mine. Every innovation had been born from my late nights and early mornings. Every answer lived in my bones. A year ago, many of you witnessed a presentation about revolutionary AI in logistics. I began, letting a small smile play on my lips. Today, I'm here to show you what that revolution actually looks like when it's presented by someone who built it. The audience laughed. They remembered. Everyone remembered. For the next hour, I didn't just present my work. I celebrated it. I dove deep into the technical details that had made Amanda stumble. I ran live demonstrations that adapted and evolved before their eyes. I answered every question with the confidence of creation, not the uncertainty of theft. When the standing ovation came, I thought about that moment months ago when I'd sat in the audience, watching Amanda steal my spotlight. She'd wanted the glory without the work, the recognition without the understanding. In the end, she'd gotten exactly what she'd earned, nothing. I'd gotten something better than revenge. I'd gotten justice, served not with anger, but with patience, not with confrontation, but with competence. Amanda had taken credit for my work, so I'd let her. I'd let her take it all the way to the stage where everyone would see that credit without comprehension is just another word for fraud. She thought she was stealing my success. Instead, she'd volunteered to demonstrate exactly why it had been mine all along. The spotlight she'd craved so desperately had revealed the truth in the end. It always does. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If you enjoyed this tale of workplace justice, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts or similar experiences. Have you ever dealt with someone taking credit for your work? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments.